morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Concrete and Coffee. I'm your host today, Cliff Saunders. This show is presented by Glue Down, and today we got a very special guest. He has developed some great products for the concrete industry and is a great partner in the tilt-up market as well. He's a co-founder and partner of the Valtec Group, LLC. Say hello to Jeff Snyder. Hey,
hello,
Jeff.
everyone. Hey, good to be with you, Cliff. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, I am actually really excited to have you on here. The past year and a half, about a year and a half, I've gotten to know you a little bit better and see some of the things that you've come up with, and then you've kind of helped give me some guidance on some of my own products, which has been nice.
Good.
And
good.
But you drinking anything this morning? I actually went out and got me a really expensive cup of coffee this morning.
Oh, did you? No, I've just got a regular coffee, and but in one of my favorite mugs. It's Shippensburg University. It's where I attended business
Where's
school
that at?
in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
South Central Pennsylvania, and this is a legacy program mug. My daughter is actually attending there right now in the accounting program. So
That's cool.
Special for us. Yeah.
So you guys got a connection with that school now.
Yes. Yeah.
Hopefully it carries on a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And she's well, I'm typical father, but she's an amazing person. So and she's helped me too, just like yourself. I mean, part of the name. Her name's Valerie.
Okay.
Some people, we were brainstorming names, and you can kind of put a little bit of that together.
Yeah.
But
well, I wanted to hurry and touch base on some of the things that you've kind of done. People don't realize this, especially if they do flat work or slab work and have power trials. They likely, in one form or another, are using a product or at least a design that you had a part of. Is that correct?
that is correct. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was very fortunate in my career to be around some really good people and very technical and learn to listen a lot. And so, yeah, I was able to be very instrumental in developing it's a steel reinforced plastic power trowel blade, quite frankly. And a lot of people know about it. And
yeah.
And it was from listening to contractors, going to job sites, and listening to what people wanted, and experimenting with materials. Again, been very fortunate to have relationships with the contractors and consultants and people that would put in input into helping develop products that add value to the contractor or the owners or the finished product.
Well, that's part of the Valtec name, right? It's Valuable Technologies.
That's right. So in brainstorming a name, a year and a half ago now, we were sitting with my daughter and my wife, and one of the things that we were thinking of, well, what is it about Jeff Snyder or connections that brings something to the table? And it was always the technical background that I was able to provide to customers and listening, and so it's like, well, okay, so we have Valuable Technologies Group. Been very fortunate to be part of some manufacturers that are really good people with some really fantastic products, features, and benefits that may not be widely distributed, but they offer a lot of value.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I can be that connection to get those valuable features and benefits to the either distributors or contractors. And I thought, okay, of course, my daughter liked the Val part of Valtec. So it all kind of came together. So
yeah.
And of
That's
course,
awesome.
my wife is a fantastic designer, and she designs all the logos and.
Yeah, that is pretty sharp looking. Does she do other stuff aside from just like the logos? She does quite a bit of some of that stuff, right?
Yeah, she does. She does technical data sheets within the industry. In fact, some of the manufacturers that I work with, and even some contractors. She does brochures and so forth for contractors and manufacturers. She's extremely talented and easy to work with. And
What's her thing called? Or
well, she has a company that also has a pen shop. She's Pippi's Pen Shop, but her original company was Flago and Friends. And then she and I started a company called Constructive Imaging, which would be, if you think about constructive imaging, it's in the construction industry and your image. So
yeah,
visual component of the industry.
you
So
guys just need to start a business just coming up with business names.
yeah. Well, a lot of brainstorming and yeah. So
Couple bottles of wine later, you're like, yeah,
well,
that's a good one. Hmm.
yeah, sure.
Well, I
But
want to dive into some of your products. The first one of yours that got brought to light to me was from Chad, and this was before I worked with Glue Down even, selling their stuff. And then one of the biggest questions we get asked from contractors all the time was, okay, use your glue, it worked out well. I stood up my building, but with the aerosol, I had this little residue, or I want to say residue, a mild buildup where the reveal was glued down. And it's
right.
always, how do I get that up? And we've heard a variety of things, but Glue Down's go-to has always been, hey, we tell guys about these wire brushes. And then that's how I got in touch with you, was Chad sent me your info and you and I got in touch with each other. And then you actually sent me one of these. This is your the wire brush one, right?
That's right, and that's the workhorse in the tilt-up industry. It gives you a combination of aggressive enough to help remove the residue. It'll also remove the like acrylic curing seals or dissipating resins, but those little residues, the form release agent that they're using in the tilt up, a little bit of the concrete residual that stays on. It's aggressive enough, yet it's not going to scratch the concrete when you're using it 7 days after the placement.
Yeah. You think those, like when you hear wire brush, you think like 16 gauge wire off the top of my head that was the first thing I thought. But this is
Right.
is it 14 gauge?
Yeah. Well, no, it's a .014.
Okay.
It's pretty thin. Yeah, 14 gauge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And so it's not like it's not like these big straight brillos of wire. It's like there's
right,
some definite flex to it. So that
right,
spread out amongst 4 or 5 arms on a trowel, that's
right.
it's like writing on a yeah, actually you sent me a video and I'm looking at the one inside the warehouse. I'm just going to run a quick clip of it, but it's
Okay,
in the warehouse one here, and the guy's on the yellow power trial, and you just throw down water on it, correct?
that's correct. Water.
Typically,
You use water. Sometimes a 10% solution of a citrus-based cleaner is helpful. And so it depends. The more water you use, the less aggressive it's going to be.
okay,
You want to use water though, because you don't want the dust.
yeah,
You got to keep dust from coming up.
yeah. I mean, this thing moving on a cloud, it looks like, and those, like you said, those wires are aggressive enough, but not too aggressive.
Well, the key too is that it's rotating.
Hmm.
You have those rotaries with a bearing that allows it to spin, and it's forgiving. It also allows it to float and rock. So you're not really digging in. It's allowed to float and rock and spin. So when you hit a joint or something, it's
Hmm.
not going to just jam in there. It's going to relieve itself and
It's
spin around.
almost like a Heim joint in a sense, because it's not just it spins, it can pivot, like you were saying, right?
That's correct.
And we
That's
have a
correct.
picture of that here. And this one here, this is your corrosion resistant one. Was that a problem before on the bearings?
Well, yes. So, and in fact, I think I'm the only one that offers it right now. Is one of the Achilles heels to an earlier system that I helped develop was the cast flange bearing
Mm-hmm.
assembly, and it'll rust, and it'll corrode, and then it won't spin very well.
Yeah.
So what happens is then you don't get very good wear on the bristles or the tooling, and it won't want to spin and float properly. So that was always the Achilles heel of the system. So I came out with, and these are all modified. These bearings are modified. They're not off the shelf.
Yeah.
I modify these so that they do work properly, but went to some other materials for some non-corrosive. This one happens to be stainless steel, so that you don't have that issue.
Okay. So you're part of the valuable technologies is you're finding that problem when you're solving it.
Correct. Yes.
I think glue down can definitely relate to that because that's like our whole thing in the tilt up industry anyways is finding problems and then finding solutions for those problems.
Yeah.
Well, those brushes are really great, but you have a softer one too, that the Mondo Poly, right?
Yes, it's a heavy duty polypropylene, and that can be used on all the trowel arms as well, or
Mm-hmm.
the number of trowel arms you have, or you can mix. You can mix some wire and some of the Mondo Poly, because that way it'll kind of soften it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's stiff polypropylene. It withstands the weight of the rider. And you can mix them up. You can do 6 and 4 or whatever you want to do to kind of soften it up. And there's some contractors, that's what they like to do. Or there may be a case where you're putting a densifier down and you don't want to use a wire at all. You want to
Mm-hmm.
use something other than the wire. You can just use the Mondo Poly to just scrub in a densifier. That's where my experience with the brushes actually came 25 years ago. I was working with a company that had a densifier. It was L&M Construction Chemicals, and I worked with their technical person because I was out there scrubbing in Seal Hard was the brand of the product, and making a mess. Just using a broom, a push broom, just scrubbing it in. And I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. So I kept in touch with the technical person and Byron Hansen, and so we continued to talk about what different bristles to do that. And really that was kind of my start on working with brushes and figuring out how do we mechanical make this easier than all this scrubbing in with a broom. So that's kind of where my beginnings with working with that was.
Right. Whatever makes it easier for the guys and does it better. Right.
Right.
It's like a 2-1-2 punch with it.
Yeah.
I
So in taking that, I thought, well, how do we, and I worked for a company that had some static brushes,
mm-hmm.
but, well, these aren't working real well. So I thought, well, let's take some brooms and just put them together, put a bracket, and that way we can have different type bristles. And I soon realized that didn't work. So then I was walking, I had that aha moment of using a rotary. And the rest is history. That it turned out to be really well because you get that spinning action. So you get the bristles; they don't lay down in one direction; they spin around. So you're getting a really nice action, and then they rotate. So you get what's called a planetary action, which is a really nice scrubbing action. And it was that aha moment of actually I was walking through the ARA show, and I saw these rotary brushes, and it's like, wow, what if we take a bolt and go right through the center? Found out that didn't work, and that's where we needed to have the bearing part of allow the float, because just running a bolt up through it would bind up. So
yeah, that makes sense.
kind of how that kind of all came about.
Well, so when you guys set them up too, it's also so you guys don't have to remove the blades every time. It's recommended that you retrofit them to a pan, right?
So recently, yes, you can the contractors can take their own pans. They have their float pans. That way we don't have to ship anything, LTL or anything. But they can take their own pans, and with our replacement components, they can make their own system of putting these rotaries and the bearings right onto a float pan, which is easy on, easy off.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it so simple. They don't need to take the trowel blades off. They can just use their own pans with these components and go to town. And then when they're done, they take them off. And it's easy storage. And it's a lot simpler than other systems that I was involved with earlier. It's evolving. And, like you said, it's everything we're continue to figure out what's the next thing, or what's needed before it might even be thought of to being needed.
Well, it's funny you're talking about, like, we were discussing the pans, because now for you guys who are whizzes on the internet and look through old magazines on there, the October November edition of Concrete Contractor had like a buyer's guide for 2020, and I didn't read it till I was on a plane in January going to California. And it was unique to me because while I'm reading that, I came across an article of yours that had your Omnipoly blades in it. And then while I was in California, that particular job I was going to, an Altman's job, they didn't quite have your blades on there, but I'd never seen anything like those before. And then I came to the job the next day, and it was like glass and almost reflective, like as far as like a mirror image, not just shiny. And there was plastic blades on there. And then I was able to reach out to you and find out more about those Omnipoly blades.
Right, right.
Tell the guys about that.
Well, so yeah, I was involved in the steel reinforced poly blade, but this is the new Omnipoly blade, and it's 1 inch thick compared to an 1/8 inch thick. And the reason for that is, again, talking with people and listening. And while these other blades they work really well, of course, the thickness gives it some more rigidity. What I've learned in the last 2 years or a year and a half was the thinner blades were flexing a little too much, and the contractors really had to pitch the blades up a lot more. And so this blade, and there's no steel to it at all, it's non-rusting, and it's designed with the intent that you can run the blade flatter, and it's going to give you so much longer life. The material of this Omnipoly is just amazing. And you can run it flatter, the incredible life. So again, it's value. You know, what are you bringing into it? Yes, they're expensive. Poly blades are really expensive. But when you look at what's the square foot cost and what is the finished product with no burnish marks, or controlling the burnish marks, I like to say, because sometimes you might want a little mottled look to it, where you could use some of the steel combo blades, burn the floor a little bit, but then you want to finish it out with the poly blade that gives you that nice looking finish without any more burn marks. So it's controlling burn marks is really the terms that I like to use.
Yeah, we got that nice little side-by-side image you sent us here, which I thought is good just to display. Well, it's an anime when it shows kind of what we're looking at, like what typically happens, and then what you can accomplish with, a plastic or Omnipoly blade.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw that up here, and that looks, I mean, that's what we would want. That's, unless you're looking, like you said, for that kind of marbled look, I guess. But I have to say, like, using an alternative blade really, it opened my eyes on that trip. I was just like,
right.
Wow. And I think Chad was with me on this one. And I remember saying, I'm like, look at how shiny and slick this slab is. It just, there was nothing to like darken when you looked at it to not reflect what was above it. So it helped. I think a lot of it was because of using a blade like that.
I think you make a really good point, because there's a lot of contractors that look at the price and they're like, we're going to keep doing what we're doing until maybe it is specified a poly blade and they use it. And then they recognize, wow, these are some of the best looking floors we've ever done. And so where some contractors will use it only because it's specified, there's others that realize, hey, let's incorporate this into our finishing all the time, so that we can provide this fabulous looking floor. And then you throw in the value of the Omnipoly blade that gets incredible footage. Yes, expensive up front, but when you work it out, you're getting those beautiful looking floors. Of course, it helps your reputation when you're doing that. And it financially makes sense. You're not changing blades as often because they last so long, so you don't have the labor of taking blades on and off. And the square footage, because of the amazing life, is such a value.
Well, when you use them as a system, which you've put together, you have longer lasting, corrosive resistant bearing assemblies. And then on the Omnipoly there, you have it so you don't have any holes protruding through the bottom. It's just a solid surface and it's thicker.
That's correct. Yep.
I mean, when you use it as a system, yeah, you're definitely getting the value's worth. You know what I mean?
Well, you bring up a good point. This has a flush bottom to it, so there's no particles that can embed into the existing poly blades the way they're put together and so forth. They have a void that particles can hang in there, and then when you get vibration, those can fall out and they can cause scratching.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have that beautiful looking uniform finish like that, every little thing, imperfection can come jump out at you. But with this flush bottom, it reduces the risk of the scratching. Of course, that's why it's important to have, you know, your equipment clean so you don't have anything falling off during the finishing. You want to avoid going from wet areas to dry areas where you're pulling some of those fines, because the poly material is not going to scratch. It's the fine aggregate that is going to scratch, or debris or something else that's on the surface. That's what's going to scratch.
Yeah, and it's just interesting because every time I go out to a new job, everyone, and not ragging on any contractor here, but especially in the tilt, everyone brags about, we got the sexiest slabs. Our slabs are the best. I mean, it's like we all want to be proud of them. You know what I mean? And now that's getting to the point where you got so many companies, like, I'm going to throw some out there, like Uline or Amazon, where they want their floors to be just as crisp as can be. And it's like both the wire brushes to remove adhesives, because they use ours on those projects, and then the Omnipoly blade to get that mirror finish. And the Uline buildings, like up in Washington, it's a mirror. It's almost too bright. You know what I mean? You could get sunburn off that in your inside. So
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect system to, if guys really do want to say we got the best slabs, I think that's the perfect component to get them there and have that verbal, yeah, we got the best.
Well, let me add another part of this is that when you're finishing a floor with trowel blades, and you know that floor is going to later be polished, it's going to get a cream polish, let's say, which in a lot of cases now, some even warehouses are getting a light polish to them, just a cream polish.
Yeah.
And using a steel blade, those burn marks can get down in there a little bit into your finish. So even though you think you're going to come through and you're going to grind off, you know, do a quick polish, those burn marks can actually get down in there. So that's why it's important then to use that poly blade to give you those last passes without those burn marks, so that when you do your polishing, you're going to get better results.
Oh yeah, hands down. Well, you made it some awesome blades, and obviously you've put a lot of time and energy into designing all this stuff. But what do you do when you're not designing and trying to run businesses and all the other stuff that comes with it? I mean, you're pretty busy for at least your end of it. You're a one-man show along with your wife. Then you got your partners and stuff. What are you doing for fun?
So you know, camping was a big thing. You know, we have an Airstream trailer that we've enjoyed camping.
Keeping it classic. Nice.
Yeah, it's a 1980. It was built in '79, but it's a model 1980, so it's one of those classic, if you will. And my wife actually went through and redid a lot of it. She's amazing. And we do some biking. We have Mini Cooper vehicles and mini folding bikes. So we'll take those on trips. My wife and I went on a trip to DC on July 4th last year, and took the bikes on the train, and the metro in town, and rode around July 4th celebration, and it was fabulous. So we like to travel. Of course, nowadays with things, it changes. So we'll see how all that works out.
Yeah, right. Are you guys camping now by any chance, or are you at home?
No, we're home.
I was like, it doesn't look like an Airstream behind you, but
Yeah,
I don't know. I could be mistaken.
no, we're home. We're home.
Okay.
And that was the beauty of, you know, being able to work the way I do with some manufacturers that are fabulous and can ship. I can go and be almost anywhere to work. So this is actually my delivery model is actually working out really well with today's situation. You know, we can ship. with very minimal. It doesn't take a lot of people to do what we're doing. I make the Omni Poly blades from the raw materials, and I actually put them together myself. I moved operations home for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually worked out well. We never skipped a beat, and shipping them all over the country. So
Now, we talked a little bit earlier, but we're not going to say what it is, but your little guy hanging up on the wall there. Now, I'm going to throw a little thing out there. The first person to answer what that little character is up on the wall in the comment section of this video, first person, I'll send you a concrete and coffee mug, which aren't made yet, but they're going to be. And I think that thing's interesting.
well,
How
I
long
tell you
have
what,
you had that?
I tell you what we'll do. A very long time. It goes back to college days, and it's something I've had for a long time. But I'm going to throw in something even a little better. Not better, because the mug is great. But I'm going to throw in somebody uses the keyword of that to recognize that what's hanging on the wall. I'm going to throw out a 10% discount on any 20 pieces of either Omni Poly blades or brushes or a mix. On 20-piece order, throw out an extra 10% on that up until let's say April 15th.
I'd be on that, because that's you're getting a big value with that, and when guys talk about the initial investment, if you do something like that, why not, right?
Well, this is a lot of fun, and this will make it fun.
Well, awesome. So the best way for them to get a hold of you, you're on LinkedIn quite a bit, and I'll make sure that you're tagged in this. So guys, you can find him on his LinkedIn, as well as you can find all of his other products in his group that he works with. That's Valtec, VALTEC.group. And place your orders there, as well as see all the other products that they have. There is a variety of stuff on there. I frequent that site probably once a month, just to get more familiar with some of those products. Is there another way to get a hold of you, Jeff? What's your email?
Email is jeff@valtec.group, and my phone 717-424-8914.
Oh man, you guys got all the information. There's no reason not to get that going and try those blades out. And if you want someone to come out and show you how to work with them, I'll come out and do it. If you're in the Western states, I'll come out, baby.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I met Chad on a job site probably 4 years ago, and just being out on the job sites and working with contractors and getting to meet people like yourselves has really been fabulous, and that's what it's all about. So working with some really good people.
That's right. And guys, if your current supplier is not bringing new stuff to you, you need to talk to them, get them bring you new products. You might not like hearing it, but trust me, if you're not finding out new stuff, you are falling behind. So, Jeff, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. I need to go get a munchkin over to daycare. So,
okay.
Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Cliff, very much.
All right. Have a good rest of the week.
Thank you.